Judge Alastair Finch's courtroom is a kingdom carved from dark mahogany and fear. The air itself is heavy, thick with the ghosts of past verdicts and the silent pleas of the condemned. Finch sits on his bench not as a servant of the law, but as its master. The black robe he wears is less a uniform and more a coronation garment, the wood of the bench his throne, the gavel his scepter. He is a man built from granite and prejudice, his face a permanent sneer held in place by decades of unchallenged authority. His eyes, small and cold, sweep across the room, cataloguing the lesser beings who have dared to seek justice in his domain. Today, his gaze snags on a woman in the third row of the public gallery. She wears a simple grey hoodie, the hood down, revealing tight coils of black hair. Jeans, worn sneakers. She is an anomaly in the solemnity of the court, a splash of street-level reality on his pristine canvas of power. He registers her face, her dark skin, the worried line of her mouth, and dismisses her instantly. Another one. Another piece of the sad, predictable scenery that accompanies the dregs brought before him. Probably family for the next case on the docket. He sniffs, a small, porcine sound of contempt. His attention shifts to the defendant's table. Leo Martinez stands there, looking like a sapling in a hurricane. He is 19, but the ill-fitting suit borrowed from his uncle makes him look even younger, a boy playing dress-up for his own funeral. His hands are clasped so tightly behind his back that his knuckles are white. Beside him, public defender Samuel Green shuffles his papers with the defeated air of a man who knows he is bringing a paper shield to a sword fight. Green is a husk. The system has worn him down, sanded away his optimism until only the weary, procedural motions remain. He avoids Finch's gaze, focusing on a spot on the floor as if it holds the key to a miracle. At her station, just below the judge's bench, sits Brenda, the court reporter. Brenda is an extension of the judge himself. Her loyalty is not to the record, but to him. Her fingers, tipped with chip-pink nail polish, hover over her stenotype machine. She has mastered the art of the imperceptible smirk, a slight upturn of her lips that mirrors the judge's own disdain. She, too, has already noticed the woman in the hoodie. She, too, has already passed judgment. "Let's get on with it, Mr. Green," Finch booms, his voice a gravelly avalanche that fills every corner of the room. "I haven't got all day to listen to your client's life story. We all know how it ends." The prosecutor, a young, ambitious man named Wallace who models his every move on Finch, grins. "The state is ready, Your Honor." "Of course, you are," Finch says, waving a dismissive hand. "The facts are simple. The boy was found with stolen goods. He ran. End of story." Samuel Green clears his throat, a small, reedy sound. "Your Honor, the facts are very much in dispute. My client, Leo Martinez, was in the wrong place at the wrong time. He has no prior record. He is a scholarship student at the community college." Finch cuts him off with a slice of his hand. "A scholarship? How wonderful. They hand those out like candy these days, don't they? It doesn't change the fact that he was caught red-handed." From the gallery, the woman in the hoodie leans forward slightly. Her eyes, dark and intelligent, are fixed on Finch. She is not watching a proceeding. She is studying a specimen. Finch feels the weight of her stare, an irritating prickle on the back of his neck. He glances over, his annoyance growing. Who does she think she is, staring at him like that? He decides to make an example. "Mr. Martinez," the judge says, his voice dripping with condescension as he addresses the terrified young man. "You understand the situation you are in? You are looking at a felony charge. That means prison. Real prison. Not some juvenile hall where you get cookies and story time." Leo swallows hard, his Adam's apple bobbing. "I didn't do it, sir. Your Honor. I was just walking home." "Walking home," Finch repeats, drawing the words out into a theatrical sneer. He looks at Brenda, the court reporter, who dutifully rolls her eyes in a perfect, synchronized display of contempt. Walking home. In an alley. At 2 in the morning. With a laptop that just happened to have been reported stolen 10 minutes earlier. I found it, Leo stammers. It was on the ground. I picked it up. I was going to take it to the police. A regular Good Samaritan, Finch scoffs. The small crowd of courtroom regulars titters. Let me guess, your mother thinks you're an angel, too. The woman in the hoodie flinches, a barely perceptible tightening of her jaw. This is Imani Vance. And Leo Martinez is her constituent. She had received a frantic call from his grandmother 2 days ago, a woman who had volunteered on every one of her campaigns. A woman who swore Leo was a good boy, that he was being railroaded. Imani had promised to come and observe. Just observe. She had worn the hoodie and jeans to be invisible, to see the system as it truly was when it thought no one of importance was watching. She is seeing it now. And it is uglier than she had ever imagined. Samuel Green tries again, his voice pleading. Your Honor, we have a witness who can testify to Leo's character. His professor at the college is willing to. Willing to what, Mr. Green? Finch interrupts. Waste more of this court's valuable time? Character witnesses are a joke. I've had mothers testify their serial killer sons were saints who loved puppies. It means nothing. He leans forward, resting his chins on his steepled fingers. Here's what's going to happen. I'm denying bail. It's clear Mr. Martinez is a flight risk and a danger to the community. A danger? Green sputters. He's a 19-year-old kid who works part-time at a library. A library full of expensive computers, I imagine, Finch retorts without missing a beat. Bail is denied. He'll be remanded to the county jail until his trial, which I can schedule for, let's see, he pretends to consult a calendar. 6 months from now. That should give him plenty of time to think about his life choices. Leo's face crumbles. 6 months. His scholarship would be gone. His job. His entire future, evaporating in the cold, cruel atmosphere of this room. Imani Vance feels a cold fury begin to build inside her, a controlled burn behind her calm facade. This is not justice. This is a lynching in slow motion, officiated by a man in a black robe. Finch is enjoying himself now. He loves this part. The breaking of a person's spirit. It is a feeling more potent than any law book, more satisfying than any salary. It is pure, unadulterated power. He decides to twist the knife, for his own amusement. He looks past the defendant, past the pathetic public defender, and locks eyes again with the woman in the grey hoodie. He points a fat, imperious finger at her. And you, he says, his voice low and menacing. I see you. Sitting back there, glaring. I know your type. You come in here thinking your silent judgment means something. You think the system is unfair. You think he's a victim. Imani says nothing. Her expression is unreadable. A blank canvas. Her silence infuriates him more than any outburst could. Let me tell you something, Finch continues, his voice rising. It's people like you, with your misplaced sympathies and your constant excuses, who are the real problem. You enable this behavior. You coddle criminals and then you cry foul when they're held accountable. You drain our resources, you clog our courts, and you have the audacity to look at me with contempt. He leans back, a smug, triumphant look on his face. He has put her in her place. He has asserted his dominance over his kingdom. He turns to the bailiff. Remand the defendant. The bailiff, a large man with a weary expression, moves toward Leo. Leo looks back at the gallery, his eyes wide with panic, searching for a lifeline. His eyes meet Imani's. In that moment, a silent promise passes between them. Hold on. Imani Vance stands up. The movement is not sudden or aggressive. It is slow, deliberate, and imbued with an authority that makes the entire courtroom turn to look. The rustle of her jeans is the only sound in the suddenly silent room. Finch's face contorts into a mask of rage. I have had enough of you, he bellows, his voice cracking. Bailiff, remove that woman from my courtroom. Hold her in contempt. 48 hours in a cell will teach her some respect. Two bailiffs start moving toward her, their expressions grim. Imani ignores them. She walks with a steady, unhurried pace down the center aisle, her worn sneakers making no sound on the worn linoleum. She passes the bar that separates the public from the court. She does not stop. "I said, remove her!" Finch shrieks, his face turning a blotchy red. The bailiffs reach for her arms. Imani stops and looks at them. She does not say a word. She just looks. And in her eyes, the two men see something that makes them freeze. It is not fear. It is not anger. It is a certainty so profound, so absolute, that it feels like a physical force. They hesitate. In that moment of hesitation, the game is lost. Imani walks past them, directly to the defense table. She places a gentle hand on Samuel Green's shoulder. The man is trembling, staring at her as if she's an apparition. She leans in and whispers something in his ear. Green's eyes widen in disbelief. He looks from her to the judge and back again. He nods, a jerky, stunned motion, and takes half a step back, ceding his place at the table. Imani Vance turns to face the bench. She is no longer a concerned woman in a hoodie. Her posture has changed. Her shoulders are back, her chin is up. The hoodie and jeans now look less like casual wear and more like a disguise that has just been shed. She has become the most powerful person in the room. And everyone feels it. What is the meaning of this? Finch sputters, his gavel hand shaking. Who in the hell do you think you are? Imani looks not at the judge, but at the court reporter. Her voice, when she speaks, is not loud. It is calm, clear, and resonant, a perfectly tuned instrument of power. It cuts through the tension like a surgeon's scalpel. "Madam Court Reporter," she says, her eyes locking with Brenda's. "Please ensure you get this next part correct for the record. It is very important." Brenda's fingers falter on her keys. She looks to the judge for guidance, but Finch is momentarily speechless, his mouth opening and closing like a fish. Imani continues, her gaze unwavering. "My name is Imani Vance. Vance." She pauses, letting the name hang in the air. "I am a member of the United States House of Representatives, representing the 17th Congressional District of this state, the very district in which this courthouse sits." A collective gasp ripples through the courtroom. The prosecutor, Wallace, takes an involuntary step backward. Samuel Green looks like he might faint. Brenda's face has gone the color of spoiled milk. Judge Alastair Finch stares, his mind struggling to process the information. Congresswoman Vance. The firebrand freshman congresswoman who had been all over the news. The one who had just been appointed to the House Judiciary Committee. The one who chaired the subcommittee on judicial oversight and ethics. That Imani Vance. Here? In his courtroom. In a hoodie. It is impossible. A lie? A desperate bluff. Imani lets the silence stretch, allowing the full weight of her statement to settle. Then, she delivers the killing blow. And as of this moment, she says, turning her cool gaze upon the judge, "I am invoking my right as a member of the bar of this state to act as counsel of record for my constituent, Mr. Leo Martinez. All prior counsel is hereby dismissed, with thanks." The foundations of Judge Finch's kingdom begin to crack. The mahogany walls seem to groan. The air, once thick with his authority, is now charged with his impending doom. This is an outrage. Finch finally manages, finding his voice. But the booming certainty is gone, replaced by a high, reedy panic. You cannot just walk in here and take over a case. There are procedures." "Oh, I am very familiar with procedure, Judge," Imani says, her voice dangerously soft. "For instance, I know that under Title 18, Section 242 of the United States Code, it is a federal crime for anyone acting under color of law to willfully deprive a person of their rights, privileges, or immunities secured by the Constitution." She takes a step closer to the bench. "I also know that judicial canon requires a judge to be patient, dignified, and courteous to litigants, and to perform judicial duties without bias or prejudice. Would you say your conduct today has met that standard? Finch's face is a storm of conflicting emotions. Rage. Fear. Disbelief. You are out of order, Congresswoman, or whoever you claim to be, he barks, trying to regain control. Claim to be. Imani raises an eyebrow. She reaches into her pocket and pulls out not a wallet, but a slim, official-looking credential case. She flips it open. I assure you, my credentials are quite real. Perhaps the bailiff could bring them to you for inspection? Or perhaps you'd prefer to wait for the U.S. Marshals who are currently enjoying a coffee in the cafe downstairs to come and verify them for you? I told them I might be a few minutes. The mention of U.S. Marshals sends a fresh jolt of terror through the judge. This is not a bluff. This is real. Brenda, the court reporter, is now typing furiously, her face beaded with sweat. She is trying to remember every word the judge said. Every slur. Every insult. And she is trying to remember if she typed them accurately. Imani turns her attention to the prosecutor. Mr. Wallace. I have here a sworn affidavit from Maria Flores, who lives in the apartment directly above the alley in question. She states clearly that she saw two other individuals drop the laptop and run a full 30 seconds before my client, Mr. Martinez, even entered the alley. This affidavit was given to the arresting officer at the scene. Why was it not in the discovery packet provided to Mr. Green? Wallace turns pale. I was not aware of any such affidavit. Were you not? Imani's voice is laced with ice. Because I also have a copy of the property receipt from the arresting officer's vehicle, which lists the affidavit as an item collected at the scene. Withholding exculpatory evidence, Mr. Wallace. That has a name. It's called a Brady violation. It's a very, very serious form of prosecutorial misconduct. Disbarment is often the least of the consequences. Wallace looks like he is going to be sick. Imani is not finished. She turns back to the bench. Judge Finch. Let's talk about your pattern of rulings. My office has been conducting a preliminary review of your cases for the past 6 months as part of my committee's work on sentencing disparities. A fascinating pattern has emerged. She pulls a thin file from a folder she had been carrying, which had gone unnoticed until now. Defendants from minority backgrounds appearing before you receive, on average, sentences that are 183% longer than those received by white defendants for the exact same offenses, with similar histories. Bail is denied for minority defendants in your courtroom at a rate 5 times the court average. 5 times. She lets the statistic hang in the air. You are not a judge, Your Honor. You are a rubber stamp for a racist and broken system. And your time on this bench is over. This is too much for Finch. His arrogance, his one true shield, reasserts itself in a final, desperate surge. He stands up, his face purple with fury. I will not be lectured in my own courtroom by some radical politician, he roars, pointing a trembling finger at her. You have no power here. This is my domain. I am the law here. I find you in contempt of court. I find your client in contempt of court. I sentence you both to 30 days in the county jail, effective immediately. Bailiffs, seize them. It is a mad, desperate gambit. A king ordering the tide to turn back. The bailiffs do not move. They look at Imani Vance, then at the sputtering judge, and they make a calculated decision about where the real power now lies. They remain perfectly still. Their inaction is the final, killing blow to Finch's authority. He is a king with no army. A god with no believers. Imani watches his breakdown with a cold, clinical detachment. Contempt of court, she asks, her voice barely a whisper, yet it carries to every corner of the room. Judge, the only thing I hold in contempt is your flagrant abuse of the power entrusted to you by the people of this country. She turns to Brenda. Madam Reporter. Did you accurately transcribe the judge's comments about people like you and your misplaced sympathies? Brenda freezes, her face a mask of pure panic. I recorded the proceedings, Congresswoman. Good, Imani says. Because I did too. She pulls out her phone. With a tap of her thumb, she plays the audio she recorded while sitting in the gallery. Judge Finch's voice, tinny but perfectly clear, fills the courtroom. It's people like you, with your misplaced sympathies and your constant excuses, who are the real problem. You enable this behavior. You coddle criminals. She stops the recording. The silence that follows is absolute. It is the sound of a career ending. It is the sound of a man's world being burned to the ground. And in that silence, the large, heavy doors at the back of the courtroom swing open with a deafening thud. 2 men and a woman in dark suits enter. They carry themselves with the unmistakable, quiet confidence of federal law enforcement. The lead agent, a stern-faced woman with her hair in a tight bun, flashes a badge. FBI, she announces, her voice calm and professional. Judge Alastair Finch, you are under arrest. Finch stares at them, his mouth agape. This is not happening. It is a nightmare. On what grounds? He chokes out. The agent walks toward the bench, holding up a warrant. On the grounds of a sealed federal indictment charging you with 1 count of conspiracy to deprive individuals of their civil rights, and 3 counts of obstruction of justice. The agents ascend the steps to the bench. They do not ask Finch to step down. They come to him. They enter his holy sanctum. One of the agents gently takes the gavel from Finch's nerveless hand and places it on the bench. The other agent says, "Sir, please put your hands behind your back." Finch's composure shatters completely. He begins to blubber, to plead. No, wait, this is a misunderstanding. A political witch hunt. She set me up. He points a shaking finger at Imani. It was her. She entrapped me. Imani looks at him, not with triumph, not with hatred, but with a profound and weary pity. I did not need to set you up, Judge, she says, her voice soft. I just needed to give you enough rope. You did the rest yourself. The FBI agent snapped the handcuffs onto Finch's wrists. The click of the steel echoes through the courtroom like a gunshot. It is the sound of an era ending. They lead him down from the bench. Stripped of his robe, in just his shirt and tie, he looks smaller. Paler. Pathetic. As they lead him past the defense table, his eyes, wild with desperation, lock with Imani's. You will regret this, he hisses, his voice a venomous whisper. I have friends. Powerful friends. Imani meets his gaze without flinching. So do I, Mr. Finch, she replies evenly. Mine are called the Constitution and the United States Department of Justice. Who are yours? He has no answer. They lead him away, a broken man being frog-marched out of his own fallen kingdom. The courtroom remains silent, the occupant stunned into immobility. Then, Imani turns to Leo Martinez, who has been watching the entire exchange with wide, tear-filled eyes. She puts a reassuring hand on his arm. It's over, Leo, she says gently. All charges are being dropped. You're going home. The boy finally breaks. He collapses into his chair, burying his face in his hands, his body shaking with sobs of relief. Imani Vance stands beside him, a silent guardian, as the ruins of a corrupt dynasty settle into dust around them. The fallout is not a storm. It is a cleansing fire. It sweeps through the courthouse and the city's legal system with breathtaking speed and ferocity. Alastair Finch's downfall is total and absolute. His powerful friends, the ones he boasted of, evaporate like mist in the morning sun. No one wants to be associated with a man so publicly and spectacularly disgraced. His trial is a media sensation. Congresswoman Vance's recording is played for the jury, and Finch's own arrogant, prejudiced words become the primary evidence against him. He is found guilty on all counts. The sentencing judge, a woman known for her strict adherence to the law, makes an example of him. She sentences him to the maximum. 25 years in a federal penitentiary. No parole. His judicial pension is seized to help fund a victims' compensation fund. His name is stripped from the law library he had once endowed. He is disbarred in perpetuity. In prison, stripped of his robes and his power, he is just another inmate. He becomes what he had always despised, a number in a system, forgotten and irrelevant. Brenda, the sycophantic court reporter, does not escape the blaze. An immediate audit of her work is launched, spearheaded by a federal task force. They discover a pattern stretching back years. Transcripts from Finch's court were subtly altered. Incriminating statements by the judge were softened or omitted entirely. Statements from minority defendants were edited to sound more aggressive or less coherent. She had not been a reporter of the record. She had been the judge's personal propagandist. Faced with overwhelming evidence and charges of falsifying public records and conspiracy to obstruct justice, she takes a plea deal. She agrees to testify against Finch and several other corrupt officials in the courthouse. She is sentenced to 18 months in a low-security prison and is permanently barred from ever working in any capacity within the legal system again. She loses her home, her reputation, and her career, all for the loyalty she gave to a man who never even knew her last name. Prosecutor Wallace is next. The State Bar Association, under intense public and federal pressure, launches its own investigation into the Brady violation. They find it was not his first offense. He has a history of playing fast and loose with discovery rules, of withholding evidence to secure easy convictions. He is summarily disbarred. He faces a multi-million-dollar civil rights lawsuit from Leo Martinez, a suit he cannot hope to win. He ends up working as a paralegal in a strip mall law firm, a ghost haunting the profession he once sought to conquer. The arresting officer and his partner are fired. They are charged with perjury for the lies in their police report and for concealing the witness affidavit. Their convictions trigger a full-scale federal investigation into their precinct, uncovering a culture of racial profiling and corruption that leads to the indictment of their precinct captain and a half-dozen other officers. The entire department is placed under a federal consent decree, forced to reform from the top down. The fire burns bright, and it burns clean. But for every villain who falls, a hero rises from the ashes. Leo Martinez becomes a symbol of resilience and hope. The city, facing a massive and unwinnable lawsuit, quickly settles with him for an undisclosed, but reportedly 8-figure, sum. Leo does not buy a sports car or a mansion. He uses the money to pay for his education, transferring to a prestigious 4-year university to study political science and law. He also establishes the Martinez Foundation, a non-profit dedicated to providing quality legal resources and mentorship to at-risk youth in his old neighborhood. Congresswoman Imani Vance becomes his personal mentor and the honorary chair of his foundation's board. Samuel Green, the beleaguered public defender, finds his career and his spirit resurrected. Imani offers him a job as chief legal counsel for her congressional staff. He accepts immediately. Freed from the oppressive environment of the courthouse, he rediscovers the passion for justice that had first led him to the law. He becomes Imani's right-hand man in Washington, helping her draft and champion a sweeping piece of legislation. It is called the Martinez Act, a comprehensive judicial reform bill aimed at curbing sentencing disparities, strengthening oversight of judges, and protecting against prosecutorial misconduct. The bill, backed by a wave of public support fueled by the national coverage of the Finch case, passes both houses of Congress and is signed into law. Imani Vance becomes a national figure, a rising star lauded for her courage and integrity. She is re-elected to Congress in a landslide. Her position on the Judiciary Committee gives her a platform to continue her work, to keep holding the powerful accountable, to ensure that what happened in Judge Finch's courtroom never happens again. The system itself begins to change. The review of Finch's old cases, which Samuel Green helps oversee, results in 72 overturned convictions. 72 people, wrongfully imprisoned by a corrupt judge, are set free. The entire judicial circuit is reformed. New judges are appointed, chosen for their fairness and integrity, not their political connections. A new civilian oversight board is created to review complaints against judges and prosecutors, a board with real power to discipline and remove those who abuse their authority. The kingdom of fear is dismantled, brick by brick. And in its place, something new, and something better, begins to grow. 2 years later. The courtroom is the same, yet entirely different. The dark mahogany has been cleaned, the floors polished. Sunlight streams through the tall windows, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air. The oppressive weight is gone. It is just a room now. A new judge sits on the bench, a sharp, thoughtful woman who listens more than she speaks. In the gallery, a group of law students sits, listening with rapt attention. Standing before them, where the prosecutor's table once stood, is Congresswoman Imani Vance. She is not wearing a hoodie today. She is dressed in a sharp, professional suit, but her eyes hold the same fire, the same unwavering intensity. Beside her stands Samuel Green, his shoulders no longer slumped, his eyes bright with purpose. And sitting in the front row of the gallery is Leo Martinez. He is no longer a scared boy in a borrowed suit. He is a confident young man, a top student at his university, his future bright and limitless. He watches his mentor, his friend, with an expression of profound gratitude. Imani is finishing her guest lecture to the students. Power that is unaccountable is not power, she says, her voice echoing in the quiet room. It is tyranny. Whether it is wielded by a king in a castle or a judge in a courtroom. She gestures to the room around them. This room was once a kingdom. It was ruled by a man who believed his robe made him infallible, his gavel made him a god. He believed he was untouchable. He was wrong. She looks at each of the students, her gaze piercing. He made one fatal mistake, the same mistake every tyrant makes eventually. He underestimated the person he sought to oppress. He looked at a young man from a poor neighborhood and saw a statistic. He looked at a woman in a hoodie and saw a nuisance. He did not see people. He saw objects for him to exercise his power upon. She pauses, letting her words sink in. Never forget that the law is a shield to protect the vulnerable, not a sword for the powerful to wield. Never forget that justice is not a place, but a principle. It must be fought for, every day, in every courtroom, in every community. Arrogance is the armor of the insecure. Prejudice is the language of the ignorant. And both will eventually lead to ruin. She smiles, a small, genuine smile. Your job, she tells the future lawyers, prosecutors, and judges before her, is to be vigilant. Be the watchers. Be the ones who see the person, not the stereotype. Be the voice for those who have been silenced. Her eyes drift to Leo, and her smile widens. Because you never know. The scared kid at the defendant's table might just be the future leader who changes the world. And the quiet woman in the back of the room, she finishes, a glint in her eye, might just be a member of Congress about to burn a corrupt kingdom to the ground, so something better can be built upon its ashes. The students erupt in applause, the sound filling the room not with fear, but with hope. It is the sound of a new day,